Game 1 of the NBA Finals is finally here, and tip-off is at 8:30 Eastern Time. The matchup is a clash of two different styles. The Cinderella story 8th-seeded Miami Heat are a small but hard-nosed, tough-minded three-point palooza that's been coming to everyone's buildings and taking souls away. 7 undrafted players, led by none other than Jimmy Buckets, with the adaptive outside-of-the-box thinking Erik Spoelstra at the helm. Then there's the Denver Nuggets, the league's most exotic offense that runs through two-time MVP center Nikola Jokic and 1A running mate Jamal Murray, with longtime coach Michael Malone. These teams face twice a year, so I decided to watch both games multiple times to get an idea of what some of the matchups will look like. The playoffs are a different beast, but even so, you still get to see what they look like in a vacuum. But there were a couple of takeaways from both of these games I couldn't help but notice, and they could prove to be a problem for both the Nuggets and the Heat. We know the Denver Nuggets lack rim protection, which results in some serious foul trouble at times. Look at the total free throws from both games for the Miami Heat. 50 free throws to Denver's 37. And who was at the free throw line for most of those, you might ask? None other than Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo. 19 combined at the free throw line in December, and another 14 combined in February. That's a lot of free throws, and that's a lot of fouls. This brings me to problem number 1 for Denver. Can they stay out of foul trouble to deny a big portion of Miami's offense? Jimmy Butler is extremely elite at not just initiating, but finishing through contact. He's also a very good free throw shooter, so if you send him to the line, chances are he's going to make those too. Adebayo's at about 80% from the free throw line, so he's also not someone you want living there either. The Miami Heat are a team that also takes advantage of opposing teams' turnovers, something the Celtics could not stop doing. Jaylen Brown. Fortunately for the Nuggets, they're a team that turns the ball over the least in these playoffs, and part of that is because of Jokic's incredible passing ability that opens up even more because of double teams, leaving his teammates open for a ton of chances. The Nuggets haven't faced a hybrid zone like the Miami Heat's, which could take some adjusting for Denver. But the Miami Heat also haven't faced a team that runs offense through a center in the middle of the floor. This also isn't just some center in the middle of the floor that we're talking about. This is Nikola Jokic. Jokic manipulates defenses with his pass fakes, which means the disciplined Miami Heat defense will be put to the test every single Nuggets possession. I don't think the Heat will run too much zone once they realize Jokic is finding teammates the second that those gaps open up. Miami Heat loves zone defense, and they're going up against a zone-busting center in Jokic and zone-busting three-point shooting around Jokic. The Denver Nuggets lack rim protection, and they're going up against guys that love to drive and finish or kick out to open shooters. Aside from playing against different teams, the Nuggets and the Heat have very similar stats. Look at this side by side. 3-point percentage, 3-pointers attempted, field goal percentage, free throw percentage, free throws attempted. Even the steals and blocks are extremely close, and yet the Nuggets are the betting favorites by whopping numbers. That's because of a couple of obvious things that we see. The home court advantage is a major factor, the talent pool, their size, and of course the conference itself is more packed than the East. But in a playoff series, everything is about matchups, and the Miami Heat have 5 advantages on their side. One being an aggressive Bam Adebayo, who will put Jokic or Aaron Gordon in a difficult situation of fouling more than usual, which would result in some minutes without Jokic on the floor. Now, without Jokic, the Nuggets have held their own when the shooting shows up, but the Miami Heat have done an amazing job of stopping teams from having great shooting nights, which could be fatal for those moments that Jokic isn't out there attracting all the attention, if he's in foul trouble or even in those few minutes of rest in between. Advantage number 2 for the Miami Heat is Jimmy Butler, who will certainly be looking to punish Jamal Murray as much as possible on post-up possessions. This could result in easy baskets or even foul trouble for Murray, which would be a massive blow for a huge chunk of how Denver generates offense from that two-man game with Jokic. Jimmy could also put some poorly disciplined defenders like Michael Porter Jr. in foul trouble as well, and the Heat could find themselves in the bonus early in quarters, which would be very troublesome for the Nuggets. Advantage number 3 for Miami is of course their red-hot three-point shooting, which will no doubt be a huge factor in how the Nuggets choose to defend. Mismatch situations for Butler will cause the Nuggets to help, and Jimmy will find his teammates when the time comes. Advantage number 4 for Miami is the fact that Jokic is a drop coverage center, which means there will be a lot of stop and pop opportunities for guys that love those type of shots. Guys like Kyle Lowry, Jimmy Butler, Caleb Martin, Gabe Vincent, and even Tyler Hero, who might be back soon, will love to take advantage of those dribble pull-ups in the mid-range. Advantage number 5 is that most of this Miami team has been to the finals together already, while the Nuggets are in this finals for the first time in the history of their franchise, which adds a serious element of pressure I don't see a lot of people mentioning. The Denver Nuggets have more advantages, which is why I ultimately believe they will win this series. Unlike the Celtics, the Knicks, or even the Bucks, the Nuggets have a 7-foot superstar that has an answer to any defensive scheme that teams throw at him. Jokic severely punishes even the most elite of defenders because of his ability to shoot and post up. Jokic is also an amazing second chance scorer, which will no doubt cause the Heat to have to collapse just to help each other rebound. This will slow them down and take away a lot of fast break opportunities, which means less easy baskets on the board for Miami. Miami also can't just double Jokic for long periods of time because of the mentioned elite shooting around him. And with single coverage being extremely easy for Jokic to deal with, it really puts the Heat in a tough predicament. Do we double and see what the shooters look like, or do we allow Jokic to dominate and try to contain everyone else? It's easier said than done, and the Nuggets have won many games in either situation because of how incredible Jamal Murray has been as the second option. Guarding Jokic and Murray dribble handoffs, chase actions, pick and rolls, pick and pops are a nightmare because there's also Aaron Gordon, backdoor cutting, who has a height advantage over everyone except maybe Bam. And KCP and Michael Porter Jr., or even Bruce Brown, they're going to be cutting or staying in space ready to shoot. A lot of people are thinking that this series is a wrap and that the Nuggets are going to win it convincingly, but I definitely don't think that's the case, especially when I saw how these teams match up in the regular season. The Miami Heat defend better than the Nuggets, which matters in the playoffs when possessions are way more valuable. The Nuggets are the better offensive team, but the Miami Heat have shown some ridiculous offensive power as well. The Nuggets haven't been great on the road, and you couple that with how great the Heat's role players have been at home, and we could easily be in for a 6-game series at the very least. You get Jimmy Butler popping off one game, you get a Jokic foul trouble game, and this one looks like 7 games. I'm still convinced the Nuggets will win this series because of their ability to solve more problems than the Heat can. Playoff matchups are all about problem solving, game to game, and when your team can answer more questions, they typically come out on top. I'm taking the Nuggets in 7. Thanks for watching this video. This is the All Things Basketball podcast. I'm your host, Vic Lopez, as always, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.